broke up with me on a Post-it. Yeah, I know, as Berger's friend, you can't have a normal reaction, but just so you know, the normal reaction has been... Not that I'm going around telling everyone, just some girlfriends. You know, I'm trying to understand why someone would do that.
Well, maybe he was afraid.
Interesting, how so?
Women can get really angry.
Well, I assure you, I would have been very understanding.
Right.
Excuse me?
You all say that, but then you just freak and get all psycho bitch.
Really? So now it's our fault?
All we're saying is there really is no good way to break up with someone, is there?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, Billy, because actually, there is. You can have the guts and the courtesy to tell a woman to her face that you no longer want to see her. Call me crazy, but I think that you can make a point of ending your relationship in a manner that does not include an email, a doorman, or a missing persons report. I think you could all get over your fear of looking like the bad guy and actually have the uncomfortable breakup conversation, because here's what. Avoiding that is what makes you the bad guy. And just so you know, Alan.
Andrew.
Uh-huh. Most women aren't angry, irrational psychos. We just want an ending to a relationship that is thoughtful and decent and honors what we had together. So my point, Billy, is this. There is a good way to break up with someone, and it doesn't include a Post-it.
Oh. Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody.
So, hello. I'm going to do a tiny little welcome, as if we need any introduction to our guest today. But I wanted to say welcome, everyone, to the 26th Annual New Yorker Festival. I have a bio here, and I'm just going to race through it because I think you all very much know who this is. But Sarah Jessica Parker is an actor, producer, businesswoman who has received 6 Golden Globes, 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards, 2 Emmy Awards. Parker starred in the series And Just Like That, a sequel to the series Sex and the City, in which she starred while also serving as executive producer. She has performed in the films Footloose, LA Story, Honeymoon in Vegas, Ed Wood, Miami Rhapsody, The Family Stone, State and Maine, and many others. On stage, Parker recently played opposite her husband Matthew Broderick in a revival of Neil Simon's comedy Plaza Suite, for which she earned a nomination for Best Actress at the 2024 Olivier Awards. And she is the co-founder of the award-winning company Pretty Matches Productions and the book imprint SJP Lit. So, without further ado, hi, Sarah Jessica.
Hi.
Backstage, while that clip was playing, you were sort of averting your eyes.
It's my favorite position. Averting.
You don't watch your own work, I hear.
I do not, no.
Is there a reason for that?
Oh, there's multitudes. Very unpleasant, not helpful, counterproductive, better use of my time. Yeah, not good for colleagues, for producing partners, for those who are playing opposite me. I'm the person that doesn't run to the, to the TV to watch playback. I find it like almost unbearable.
Yeah, it can get too much in your head.
Yeah, for other actors, it's enormously helpful, and dailies are helpful, and I have great admiration for those who can watch the work and, takes from it something that will, they feel, improve their work or change the way they're approaching a scene or material. It just, for me, has been, it's really unpleasant.
Well, so I want to talk about the reason we're here, which is The New Yorker. So you're in the upcoming Netflix documentary about The New Yorker, talking about being a lifelong New Yorker fan. And in it you say that your parents didn't have much money, but they had a subscription. And I want to know about how you remember The New Yorker as a child and your relationship reading the magazine, because I know you're a fan.
Yes, my mother started reading The New Yorker when she went to a school in Cincinnati, Ohio called Walnut Hills High School, which is a really fantastic public high school in Cincinnati. It's a college prep high school, and she went to the librarians early on in 7th grade, and I'm not entirely certain how she knew to be so industrious, but she knew that the school library was getting a copy of The New Yorker every week. And so she asked them to hold it for her. And so she became a devoted New Yorker reader. And growing up, it was just part of our life. It was like anything else that is perfunctory. You know, like you brush your teeth, you say thank you, you eat what you're served, and you read The New Yorker. And that really kind of was the way our world worked, and you can extrapolate that in all sorts of ways. And my mother always had it, in her pocket, and then my brothers were older, and they always had it in their pocket, folded in half. It was always so companionable also, like it's not a bulky magazine. And so then when I was old enough to afford my own subscription, I became a subscriber, and I sincerely can't imagine my life without the ability to reach for it. Like I love the journalism. I love its history. I love the kind of time and space the magazine allows journalists and stories. And I think especially the thing that's been most interesting for me as a reader, and I'm probably not unique at all for those, that we are sharing this space, is just the way the magazine takes you so far away, to areas of conflict or parts of the world we know very little about. So I've just been really grateful for the talent, and it's the talent of the writers, and of course your editor, and the way he has directed the magazine and taken care of it and shepherded it into our contemporary lives.
I mean, I think of you as a consummate New Yorker, but you moved here as a child to be on Broadway, right? Can you tell the story of that a little?
Sure. My real father was born and raised in Brooklyn, so we did visit in the summers. And then when I was 11 years old, in Cincinnati, Ohio, I'd seen an ad in our local paper for an audition. Harold Pinter was directing an adaptation of The Turn of the Screw on Broadway, and they had put ads all over the country for the two children who were sort of they share the lead with the governess role. It's the story of The Turn of the Screw, that wonderfully scary Henry James, right? Yes. And we were coming to New York to see my real father anyway, and so we wrote to the producers, and we came to New York, and they said, sure, come to New York on your own dime and audition. And we came to New York City, and we went to a producer's office, in Midtown on Broadway, like really on Broadway. And, it said on the door, Arthur Cantor, producer. He was a legendary theater producer in New York. And I came into the office, and I sat down, and the scripts were yet to be collated, and I was 11, and they gave us the scripts to collate.
Child labor.
Which I was honored to do. And then we auditioned, my brother and I, and we got a call back, and we went to that theater, we auditioned, and we actually we both got the understudies. And then the girl they hired to play the role, I think they determined she was too young, and I got a call. I was back in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I got a call saying, can you get to London tomorrow? And Harold Pinter was directing it, and Claire Bloom was starring in it, and I went to London and had this extraordinary experience, went out of town to Boston and Philadelphia, came into Broadway to a beautiful little theater that's no longer here called the Morosco Theater. It was 1976. It was directly across the street from the Schubert Theater, where Chorus Line was about to premiere on Broadway. And it was a really special, life-altering experience.
Yeah, I mean, you were a Broadway baby because then you stepped into the cast of Annie were you the second Annie?
I was the third Annie.
The third Annie.
I was the first replacement on Broadway. I played the often forgotten role of July. Some people think she's not as interesting as some of the other characters. I saw her virtues. I was cast as July, and I was immediately cast as the understudy to Annie. So the first week of my rehearsals, they spent teaching me the role of Annie because the understudy was going to be on because Andrea was going to be out of town. So I learned Annie, and then for the last 3 days, I learned the role of July. And on my opening night, it was the biggest snowstorm in New York in 36 years, and everybody was out. And they said, you have to learn this part and this part and this part. And Andrea actually was in Philly, where she lived, where a lot of the kids lived. And they thought she wasn't going to make it. So it was very possible for a moment that I was going to spend my opening night playing Annie. They waited for her. They held the curtain. She came. I played my part and some pieces of others. And it was, I think, the only time my mother bought a ticket to see me in a play. Like, she was there with her best friend, and it was very special. And I remember all the graffiti on the back of the curtain that was raised at the then Alvin Theater, now the Neil Simon Theater. Now it's, I think, something else.
I feel like LA came calling when you were pretty young. I mean, you were in Girls Want to Have Fun and all these movies when you were a teenager, Footloose, and yet you have stayed so loyal to New York City. And I want to ask about why this city, why New York? Because to me, you're a New York monument.
Aww.
Like, you are as central. I mean, you're the reason I wanted to move to New York, for sure. And your loyalty to New York City, where did that come from? How did that generate?
I can tell you my first feeling about the city, and I don't know how many people in this room are not from New York City but came here, and I don't know if we're split. Are we? Who was born in New York? So a minority. So, and that's not unusual. This is a city that beckons, it calls out, and so maybe what I'm going to try to say shall briefly will be familiar. I came to New York City as a very young girl to visit my real father and visit my grandparents who lived on Ocean Avenue and Avenue S in Brooklyn on the Brighton Beach line. And I loved the city. Like, I sort of can't explain the way it kind of invaded me. And there were many things about the city that I was completely enchanted and seduced by. First of all, yellow cabs. I loved yellow cabs so much. I couldn't believe that when I looked out of the very cheap hotel room that we were all sharing, and I looked down 7th Avenue South, which goes south coincidentally, all those yellow cabs. Some people in this room might not remember that the streets were populated and dominated by yellow cabs. And I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. And I think also in contrast to the color of the streets and this canyon of buildings, and there were these kind of marigolds racing down this avenue. And I just thought it was the most colorful, exciting, dynamic things. Those weren't the words I used, they were just how it felt. I love hot dogs.
Soubrette stands, right? It has to be soubrette.
Died for soubrette stands.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe that there was this, once again, bright, I don't even like yellow, to be honest. There was this kind of bright yellow umbrella and this man, typically, and this hot dog in water. And, you know, it was costly for us. It seemed like decadent and rogue and sort of neighborhood, like you were local. Yeah. I love Gray's Papaya. I died for Gray's Papaya. I died for Orange Julius. And I loved the theater.
Wasn't it your idea to have, like, after, in Sex and the City, after Carrie has her book party, to go to Gray's Papaya?
Yes, yes. But I also love the theater. I love the theater, and my parents were very smart and figured out ways to afford tickets, and some of us would stand, and then at intermission we'd switch, and then those that were standing were sitting, and it just seemed like this really remarkable, sort of unimaginable place that really did exist. And we drove home back to Cincinnati after that trip that really like just undid me. And I remember I was in the diving board at our little local swim club, and I turned to my brother. I was jumping on the diving board, and I said to him, I can't believe we were just in New York City. And in my head, I knew if there was a way to get back there. My dream was to live on 45th between 8th and 9th. and be in the thick of it, you know, just like in the thick of it.
A beautiful block. A beautiful block.
It was so near everything. And I don't know, there were a bunch of Chinese, Cuban restaurants right up there on 8th Avenue.
Well, I remember. So I wrote a profile of Sarah Jessica for the magazine 2 years ago. And I remember walking around with you around the city was the most phenomenal experience because everything is amazing to you. Like, we walked by a trash can, an old vintage New York City trash can on the boardwalk in Coney Island, and you just say, like, I would die to have that trash can in my house.
I've tried to get it.
Yes.
I mean,
You've talked to the city
legally.
several times.
Yes, yes. There is a pop-up sale, everybody, once a year that the MTA does. And my husband and I pay particular attention this time of year. It just ended about 9 days ago. And we missed it this year, devastated. And, but the city does sell its pre-loved public municipal repositories for what we no longer want. And they are beautiful, they've changed.
Yeah,
We've talked
now
about
they're
that.
like either the pull open or the push down, but they used to be wire. Like
Yeah,
they used
they
to be
were-
like a giant wire.
They were very beautiful.
We got to get you one. If anyone has a connection.
I've tried to find one for our house, but it's not helpful to the sanitation workers. So it's too bold. It's unwieldy.
So when it came to doing Sex and the City, I mean, you read that script for the first time. It's the 90s. You're mostly doing theater at that moment. You were on Broadway in Once Upon a Mattress. You were, in Sylvia, and you were trying to, be a New York working, walk up the street, no one recognizes me actor.
Yeah.
And this script lands on your desk, and I wonder, did you have any hesitation? Did you think, I don't know if I want to do TV? What was your thought when the project came to you?
My agent called me and he said that Darren Star had written this script and that he had me in mind when he was writing it. And I was so curious. When I read it, I was very mystified because I didn't think there was anything thus far to suggest that why would I be in his head when he was writing this part. However, I was familiar with Candace Bushnell's column. I knew it. Someone had sent me the book that he had actually bought prior to this conversation. I knew about the New York Observer, I read it. When I read the pilot script, I thought it was really special. I was really, it felt completely unfamiliar and right and true. And my only hesitation was that I wasn't super keen on doing nudity. And so when I met with Darren to discuss it, he took me up to eat up on Madison Avenue, and which is, costly. And I was really excited, and I shared with him this reservation, and he was like, so don't do it. Don't do nudity then. And I said, oh, okay, well, that was fairly simple. And then he's the one that also said to me that day, he said, and you should produce it. And I said, I don't know how to, I've not produced. And he said, how long have you been on film sets? You've been on, And so he said, so the first year be a consultant. And I came home and I showed the script to my husband and my oldest brother, Pippin, and they read it and they said, you must do this. You have to do it. And the thing that I really loved most of all about the pilot script was the last moment as described in stage directions, which is, Carrie meets this fellow and they bump into each other again, and I've not seen it, so as I recall, he eventually gives her a ride home. It's toward the very last moments of the pilot episode, and they're riding in a car, and he asks her, have you ever been in love? And she's got some sort of, slightly arch response and doesn't ask the question to him. And he drops her off at her apartment. She walks toward the door of the apartment. She turns around. She knocks on his window, a town car. And the window rolls down, and she says, have you ever been in love? And he says, abso-fucking-lutely. And she turns, and the camera sort of slows down. And then it freezes on her, and I thought, oh, well, there's the story. it's all possibilities then. If this has left her thinking, then there's just a million stories to tell, and I was really excited.
Yeah, that episode was directed by the great Susan Seidelman, who made
Yes.
Desperately Seeking Susan, among other movies, and I
Yeah.
love that shot, the freeze frame.
Yeah, it's great.
But you sort of saw Carrie Bradshaw in a legacy of that girl. You know, that idea of these women traipsing around Manhattan trying to find their way. Who is that girl? That's a series?
Oh,
wait, no.
That girl was a show that Marlo Thomas
Yes,
starred
Marlo
in.
Thomas.
And this was in the late 60s, probably. But she wasn't alone, too. There were lots of, actually, you know, this was not the first time a woman was wondering about what it meant to be alone or not alone in a city. In New York City, obviously, there's Mary Richards in Minneapolis, and there's countless other versions of the story, some with great success and some lesser known. But I thought that there was possibly something exciting and colorful and interesting, and I'd never seen women talk the way these women were talking. I'd never heard women be that candid or transparent or naughty or salty or ribald. That wasn't language, and the kind of intimacy shared wasn't anything that I'd ever
Yeah, I
seen
mean,
on
I
the
think we
bigger little screen.
discussed that at heart, you're maybe more of a Charlotte. Like, there's a
Yeah.
sense that the whims of Carrie wouldn't resonate with you off screen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sharing that way. That's not the way I don't have that kind of conversation with my female friends who I'm very, very close with and intimate with. It's just not something I've ever, I talk about intimate things, but I don't tend to talk about, like, I don't know, I can't talk about it here. But for that reason, I loved it. You know,
I mean, was it fun for you to sort of dip into that world of sort of Cosmo swilling and cigarette smoking?
Yes, but it was always more than that. I never, if somebody said, what do you love about playing this part, that wasn't what came to mind. It was this attempt at finding home. Like, Carrie was always running towards something. She was always pulling, reaching, stretching, you know, and in doing so, making poor decisions, using bad judgment, falling short, disappoint herself or others, wrapped up inside a person that I think was really a fantastic woman, actually. But there was so much that was about her emotional experiences that came to mind first, before the swilling and the smoking. Like, I thought of that as just like the way someone, you know, a character might describe as someone who, like, bites their fingernails a lot, or keeps touching their hair, or any kind of manifestation of body stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
and I want to talk a little bit about the specificity of your physical comedy, because I feel like a lot of people don't know how much you prepare and how the lightness of this character is born of so much precision. You know, that I think of one of my very favorite scenes, which is that pratfall, the fashion roadkill moment where you fall on the runway. And that was something that you'd practiced, right? You practiced over and over.
Yeah.
How do you know how to fall like that?
Well, probably thanks in some part to the first season of Saturday Night Live, because Chevy Chase used to fall all the time, and I wasn't allowed to watch it, but my two older brothers, Pippin and Toby, watched from the very first episode, and Toby's Sunday mornings would begin with him falling all the way down our stairs like Chevy Chase, and we were so amused by that after we knew that it was, you know, hijinks. But my brother Toby taught me how to trip. And then Matthew taught me how to trip. There's a beautiful trip that Gene Wilder does at the very top of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is exquisite. Like, if you didn't know about it, he doesn't give anything away. And I think that's the secret, is how to make something effortless seeming. We were talking actually with, my daughter's a junior, and she's spending an entire semester studying Putin. And I promise this is, there's a bridge. And they took a little respite from that, and they turned to Rousseau and social contracts, and there's this really incredible passage about how rules create liberty. And I was like, oh my gosh, Loretta, that's like acting. Finding structure, and then you can be as free as you want. Like, I can't be free if somebody just have fun. I'm like, but well, what are the boundaries? What do I need to know? Where's the camera gonna be? How are you gonna be shooting this? And the more I know, the more free I am to actually be free. But
yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, and the physicality, it's so incredible. I mean, I think of that scene where you lose the dog and you're running in heels. And you know, everyone's really always talking about Tom Cruise doing his own stunts, but nobody could run down cobblestone streets and hills like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Those were long days, and I remember those shoes. I know exactly what shoes I was wearing when I ran down those many streets, and I remember the shorts. I remember the top. I remember everything I was wearing. But I want to say, Equal Champions were the crew that built track that went on for 30, 40, 50 feet in our dolly grip. Joe Donahue, who was pushing that dolly as fast as I was running, and so that's like yet one more example of like being able to do those things when everybody else knows what they're supposed to do too, and then you can just tear ass, you know, because you know what you can and can't do.
I mean, okay, so you brought up the shoes. You don't watch the show, but you seem to have a photographic memory for the clothes. Or at least we can talk about them.
If you can describe a scene, I can usually remember what I was wearing.
Well, we're about to do that.
Okay.
Because I have a lightning round for you.
Okay. I can get help from could I call a friend?
But the first thing I wanted to, that I discovered during my reporting that was the most amazing thing is that you have most of those clothes. It was in your contract.
Yes.
Amazing line in your contract that you got to keep the clothes.
I don't know why I have an attorney who years before that said to me, you should have in your contract that you keep everything you wear from movies and television, and I was happy. I don't ask for, I don't need champagne or caviar or pink M&Ms or bottled water, distilled water. I just want to keep my costumes. And I'm really grateful.
Are they in like a cold storage somewhere?
They are. They're in a place that has temperature controlled, no sunlight. They're like kept like, yeah.
Well, we're going to revisit a few looks.
Okay.
Because this is my lightning round. I hope that it's a little game we're going to play. So there's a few 5 or so classic looks, and I just want to sort of see what your thoughts are on them. So can we pull up the first one? Okay.
Yeah.
What does this make you think about?
I remember that day so well. We were shooting it really fast. We were not with our actual DPs. They'd hired an outside company to shoot the title sequence. We had 2 looks for that day. Patricia, Molly had pulled 2 looks. One was a Marc Jacobs dress that sort of was a shifty kind of like, almost felt like the 20s or the 30s. And this, which was a very, very cheap, nothing bargain bin tutu, not high quality. It wasn't a great quality tulle. And this tank top, those were Jimmy Choo shoes, which they just reissued this past year. And we were shooting on 5th Avenue, and we didn't have a lot of time. Hair and makeup people I've never worked with before or since. And we had to have, not because they didn't like them, let me just say, they went fancy for this. We had, I don't know, 3 or 4 of each because I have to get splashed with water, so we shot everything up to and over and over again, and then we did the shot of the water splashing and then the post-water splashing.
Incredible.
And,
okay, this is a lightning round, so we
okay,
can go
sorry.
Past. Okay, next. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to ask about this because belt on bare midriff.
Yes, what? So?
Great, next.
Okay.
This is maybe my favorite thing you ever wore on the show.
Is that right?
The bunny tail skirt.
That's a J. Crew shirt of my own from my own closet. Yeah.
Incredible. And the bunny tail?
And the bunny tail, that's a Vivienne Westwood piece. That was one of those night shoots. We probably shot like 10 scenes that night, and I just kept running back to the trailer and changing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we have the next one, or did we lose?
Is that it?
Oh, speaking of Vivienne
Speaking
Westwood.
of Vivienne Westwood, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. I love that dress. We had to beg to get it back, and we're really grateful we did, and we wanted to try to figure out something to do, and actually that bird almost disappeared. That bird almost flew away, but she's back, and she's in my possession, and yeah, I was so thrilled that I got to wear that again. That dress is like, it's significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is another significantly sized dress coming up next.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's really more of a dress coat.
Oh, yeah. I believe that's Montclair. Cynthia directed that episode. I think it's a montage sequence of a snowstorm that hits New York.
Yeah, and
right?
you have
I've never
to do a
seen
book
the
reading, and you're going to go out hell or high water.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. It's like a sleeping bag.
It's an actual skirt that has suspenders to hold it up because it's so weighted. It has it's so heavy. And then the top is separate. And then that is a hat from when I had a business, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago called Bitten. I brought that in from home.
Remember Bitten?
Brought that in from home. Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, speaking of hats.
Uh-oh.
This is a hat from this most recent season of And Just Like That really kind of became a meme for its voluminous proportions. And just tell me a little bit about this millinery. Like, what is the feeling here?
She's amazing, meaning the milliner as well as the hat. Saw the hat in the fittings. I know Alyssa's in the house somewhere and she can say the milliner's name correctly. Thank you.
Diane Keaton.
I saw the hat in the fitting, and I loved it. It was just like, like without anybody in it, it was just, but it called out. I mean, it was not surprised. No one was surprised that I was like, how do we find a way to wear this? And will I be stopped? Like, what's the law? And I forgot we have none. But I knew we had to find a dress to go with it. I believe I wore Dr. Scholl's as well.
Well, thank you for playing the lightning
My
round.
pleasure, my pleasure.
I want to talk briefly about And Just Like That.
Okay.
And the decision to do it. I mean, it was originally, maybe people don't know this, maybe going to be a podcast.
Correct.
And how did it come about that you and Michael Patrick decided to bring it back to TV?
It was early April of 2020, and we were all at home, and we started watching television with our children, and we were watching everything old. Like, we were running through all of Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart, and I was thinking about how it was making me feel, but how it was making my children feel, who weren't having the same feelings. They weren't having those feelings for the same reason that I was. And I was just thinking about the things that felt near, that felt far. The things that I liked feeling near, feeling far. And I thought, well, maybe this is a really nice time for Michael and I to talk about the show. We're far away from one another, and, we could do this. And I rang him up and I just said, would you be curious about this idea? I ran it by a few friends who are far more, they have their finger on the pulse of pop culture, and so I ran it by them, and they were like, yes, you for sure. So I asked Michael Patrick, and he said, absolutely, and I called my agent. And then the next time Michael Patrick and I talked, he said, I'm thinking maybe it should be the show. And I was standing outside. I know exactly where I was standing, and I thought, God, I'm so glad he said it, because I didn't have the courage. Because I was thinking, I think we should now have the conversation that we've decided not to have for all these years. Like, every time it's come up, we've thought, no, it's not right. It just doesn't feel right. I mean, that simply. And so we called HBO, and, they were very hospitable.
And then having the other hard conversation about your decision last year to end the show, how did you know it was the right time?
Michael and I always seem to reach that at the same moment. We did it the first time round, and it was really, it confounded people because things were good. Like, why walk away from something that is doing really well and that we're happy doing, and we get to work with all these people that we love, and we get to be in a city that we, you know, feel such affection for. But Michael has an instinct about story, and I had been wondering about the story. The second year we knew when she was going to move into Gramercy that there was no way to not live there and see it and feel it. But we had a conversation, and we both agreed that that was it. That's where we were right now, and I just have always trusted Michael because he's so filled with ideas and energy and inspiration, and he's so gung-ho about working, and, you know, he's happy thinking about these people. And if he felt that that's where the map ended, his creative map, then I felt very confident in trusting that as our decision.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what it's like to say goodbye to a character you've been playing for, you know, over 2 decades.
Yeah.
Like, does it feel wistful?
I think because I've been on hiatuses before, I've been so busy since we stopped shooting that I just haven't really thought about what it means to not ever play her again, because I could just as well with this period be on a hiatus from the show. So I think it's been very convenient for me to just think of the absence of that exercise that way, because maybe it's too complicated to like reckon with it really being done, you know, because it's so consequential to me.
I want to talk about some of the things that have been keeping you busy since and during the whole time that you were making the show.
Putin. Sorry.
I mean, I want to talk about your love of reading and your experience as a literary citizen. I know this year you were a judge for the Booker Prize.
Still am.
Still am.
Still am. We're almost there. Yeah.
What was that like? You had to read so many books.
Still am. It's been extraordinary. I mean, for anybody who is, I always say, anybody who's like a greedy reader like me, it's a dream come true. I mean, it's really overwhelming, and it feels sometimes like you're being swallowed by a book. And the volume and the speed at which we're reading, we'll have read 166 books since December 23rd. But to be inside books in that way, to have made a commitment and have that kind of obligation, to consider all these writers and their work, to celebrate new writers, to celebrate books from all over, telling stories from all over the globe, to meet these judges who I loved the judges so much. There's 5 of us total. I can't begin to understand how I was given this gift. Like, it's as hard as it's been, just in terms of the weight and the responsibility. I can't believe it. I cannot believe I'm judging the Booker. Like, I mean to do right by it every single day.
And your own imprint.
You don't have to talk, it's okay.
SJP Lit. I mean, sometimes, you know, people that can lend their name to an imprint do it as kind of a vanity project, but you are so involved. You read all the manuscripts. You're the one who's saying, you know, what the imprint should put out. You support the authors. You're at their book launches. You're supporting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how did it come to be that you have your own imprint, and what kind of books are you looking to publish? Are you proud to publish? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish with it?
Well, I started publishing, I guess about 10 years ago when Molly Stern was at Crown, And she and I met, and it's a very long story, so I won't do this. I'm trying to do long story short instead of short story long. We met, we eventually started a book club. The book club's purpose was to read as yet published books. To all of us, try to find ways of supporting debut authors, especially in literary fiction. And we were very, super committed to this book club. And over the course of the 2 years spent at the book club, Molly said to me, I think you should be publishing books. And I said, I don't know I didn't go to college. I barely graduated from high school. And I don't know how to write a paper. Like, I don't know what business I have. And so she said, no, this is the way you can do it, you can learn. And so I started in print at Crown. It was SJP for Hogarth. And then Molly left, and I came with her to Zanda, which is an independent publishing house, and we started the same way. New voices, stories about the world in the literary fiction space. And they don't have to be debut authors, but I'm certainly looking for stories that have yet been told elsewhere. And there are plenty out there that are really exciting and really wonderful, and it's been such a great success. And our most recent book, I Am You, by Victoria Riddell, has been so beautifully received. It's an extraordinary tale based on a true story, actually, which is a little unusual for us, but it's a thrill. We have, 3 more books coming out, and just reading manuscripts, and it's such a privilege to offer up what I think is a really special book to readers,
Yeah, you're like the busiest person in the world.
No.
Well, I mean, you have the book imprint, you have Pretty Matches, you're saying you're producing some upcoming films, or you're trying to get some new projects off the ground. You had your own shoe line, you have a line of wine. Do you have a sense of how to prioritize every day? Do you wake up and you go, this is what I'm going to focus on? Or how do you sort of manage your own time?
People ask me this question, and I'm always wanting to say, I know how I get to do it because I have the kind of support I need. When my children were younger, I could afford childcare, and I could make these choices, and they were really exciting and fun and challenging, and I was learning new businesses. And the thing that surprises me most is all the women and men and parents who are holding down 2 and 3 jobs in our city, across our country, who don't have the kind of support I have, who are really just managing every single day. So I don't think it's extraordinary that I get to do the kinds of things I like and have choices that I can find a way to sort my day. I just have to say, more so is, how are they doing it? How are these parents doing it who don't have what I have?
So great. I want to get to audience questions in 2 minutes, but
Okay.
the last thing I wanted to ask you was just a brief question about working with Diane Keaton, who I know you worked with twice on
Yeah.
First Wives Club and Family Stone.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know, in light of her passing, if there is anything that you sort of learned from her, gleaned from her about your craft.
Oh my gosh, I didn't get to work with her as much on the First Wives Club, but obviously Family Stone, we spent the entire shoot together, and she is everything you wanted her to be. It's all true. And her nature was as delightful as a persona that we all kind of wrapped ourselves around. She was a person, she was whimsical and super smart and curious and cared so much about the work. She wore headphones while they were setting up the camera. She wore headphones every single day, and she had a Discman, and she put the headphones on. They called action, and so that she was always thinking, not getting distracted by a chaotic set. She cared so much to be good, and when the cameras rolled, one might confuse that it was easy, You know, she had a way of being on screen that wasn't showing off any of her technique or any of the ways in which she put serious consideration. And I think that's a very hard thing to do, because there are actors who are letting you know that they are working hard, you know? And she just wasn't. She was extraordinary.
Well, I'll say it. I feel the same about your work. It feels
Thank
so
you.
light and
Thank you.
effortless.
Thank you.
So I want to get to some audience questions. So somebody asks, you've often returned to the stage throughout your career. What about theater still calls to you, and does it feel different to you to perform live after years of screen work?
Probably how terrifying it is. Mostly like sick the whole time, like terrified. And I think that's probably necessary because there is no way to fix anything. And generally speaking, theater audiences are so discerning. They have very high, and they should have very high expectations. They've paid a huge amount of money for their ticket. There's plenty of other choices they could have made. And often you're choosing to do something because you think the playwright is really exciting and the person you're going to play opposite, or the people. And my great fear is always, you know, will I be the weak link? Will I be the one that hurt this? And on film, you have a chance to fix and rectify and course correct. And on stage, it's a free-for-all, and the audience is playing as much a part in it as you are. So it's just appropriately terrifying. And it's always been that way. But I think I like that.
Do you have play?
I mean, I don't, but then I do.
Yeah.
I always think, just one thing, I always think if they would just bring the curtain up. I feel like, you know those horses that are in the starting gate? Like, they get them up to the gate, and then they're like, the ones that have to go in first are just like, come on. And one horse on the end is like, you know, being a nuisance. And I always feel like, oh, I'm in the gate, and just open the freaking gate. If you would open the freaking gate, I would be fine. I just don't want to think about
that moment.
Waiting for the gate.
Yeah. What do you love about 2025 New York City that's different than previous eras you've experienced? There's three questions like this that are like, what do you love about New York now?
I'm going to say this. I'm really proud of New Yorkers who have been kind of on the front lines at our courthouses on Canal Street the other day. I think that New Yorkers in 2025 are ready to stand shoulder to shoulder, and I like that I can rely on that idea and feeling. That's what I like best about our city right now.
Is there anything you haven't had the opportunity to do yet in your career that you'd like to explore?
Oh my gosh, there's the whole world. I mean, I would like to go into foreign service. I would like to be in diplomacy, to be honest. So that's not in the career that I'm pursuing right now. But if there's time left, I have to figure out a way to get into. I think they say George Washington University is the best for studying. Yeah. But I think I'm out of my league. I think I'm out of my depths. But
Are you kidding? You would be an amazing ambassador.
No, I don't need to be an ambassador. I just want to be in the embassy. Like, I don't want to be ambassador. I just want to be doing the work that our embassies have done so beautifully for so long. And I want it to be the way it was when we had, you know, influence. I think it was called soft power. And I was proud of that.
Yeah. Someone says, has there ever been a moment when you said no to a project because it didn't align with your creative ethics, even if it made commercial sense?
Oh, sure.
You don't have to say what.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, early on I was pretty, I wasn't so bold about passing up an opportunity to work because I needed to work. And but yeah, I think that's one of those things I tried to talk about a little bit earlier, just the opportunity to say no, the kind of freedom to try to find things that are exciting or new versus so many other working mothers who just have to work.
I like this question. You've sustained a career across 5 decades in an industry that often resists longevity, especially for women. What have you learned about the kind of reinvention that feels authentic to you rather than strategic?
I guess I've kind of just looked at work kind of without thinking about anything else. I think for a period of time I thought a lot more about what it meant to be a woman, and I think now I think more so about not being strategic. You know, what is going to take me away from my daughters right now? You know, how will I be spending my days? How far away will I be from home? What am I missing? What commitments have I made? Like, I'm making choices differently than I used to. I used to think much more about, you know, how does it all add up? Like scar tissue, like you want to be doing things that like add up. As a journeyman, you're trying to find work that you keep learning, you get better, maybe you get to travel, hopefully you get paid, and you get to work with really interesting people, and you're scared. And I still want to be scared, but now I am not so much strategic, I'm much more thoughtful in smaller ways about how I'll be spending my time. And that's just because it's been 52 years of working that I finally feel like, yeah, I'm gonna make choices that suit my daughters right now.
Have you thought about what this next phase is going to look like? Like, what are you working on next?
I'm supposed to do 2 different movies, so that will take some time. My husband and I did a play reading the other day together. That was really fun and interesting. So I would like to work with him again. I loved that. And I was so worried that wasn't going to work out. And meaning our marriage. I had so much confidence in the play. I knew the play was tested by many others before us decades ago. But we had never worked together like that, and it was such a potentially anxious-making experience, and he was so great, and I loved working with him, so I would like to have that experience again.
I know you've been a supporter of some of our great New York institutions, the ballet, the opera, the library, and in terms of being a New Yorker and a citizen right now, how are you feeling about your own place in the citizenry and what you can do to support those institutions going forward?
I'll keep directing money and time and attention toward the New York City Ballet, toward our cultural institutions, our libraries. Our libraries, not just here, but libraries across our country, especially our libraries in our public schools, where there are librarians who are being really challenged and whose personal and professional lives are on the line, who are in the crosshairs of unthinkable circumstances that they're facing. So I will keep talking about those librarians. I will keep talking about what I feel are our obligations to our citizens, our fellow citizens in this city, but not just in this city, across the country. But everything, I think, for all of us, we have to kind of pursue these things that matter to us in our own way. And sometimes it's a more public effort, and sometimes it's quieter, and sometimes it's raising money. The thing that I've been spending most of my time as a citizen doing in terms of politics is working for this extraordinary organization called the States Project. Is anyone in the room familiar with the States Project? Oh, yay. All right, see me afterwards. The States Project is an incredible group that have been doing the super important work of flipping state houses. Very briefly, the most important elections we have across this country are in our state houses. And you can sort of follow the path from a law that is then argued in front of the Supreme Court that came out of a state house. The Dobbs decision came, I believe, out of Louisiana. Where did Dobbs come out of? Pardon me? Mississippi. This Voting Rights Act law that the Supreme Court is now currently deciding and will be, I think, in the next week, that came out of a state house in Louisiana. All those laws are ready to be scaled across the country. They all come out of state houses. When we, well, let me speak for myself. When we have state legislators that believe in the basic fundamental rights in our country, that take an oath to the Constitution, we have a better chance of having a state house that reflects all of us, our needs, whether it's voting rights or access to health care or women's health issues or funding for our public schools or the ways in which we what is the pedagogy in our public schools or clean water, all these things, state houses, state houses, state houses. So that's where I'm putting my time and efforts. Take a second, if you don't mind, only if you're curious and bored, and look up the States Project. That's where I'm spending my time and money. And there's a very, very, very big race in Virginia. It's an off-year election year, as you guys know probably. There's a huge, important race in Virginia. It's going to speak volumes about, I'm so sorry, but it's going to speak volumes about the next year ahead. So if you don't mind and you want to look for the States Project, when you go home or right now on your phone, I don't care if you don't listen to me anymore. And just, there's all sorts of ways that you can be supportive of the States Project, but that's just a choice you can make or not.
Okay. This one is from me because I'm dying to ask somebody who's actually been profiled by The New Yorker what it was like on your end to be fact-checked by our magazine.
Oh my God. Oh my God, it was the privilege of a lifetime. I tried to calculate the hours. I'm not kidding you. I think I fact-checked for 8.5 hours in total. I could not have been more touched by the legend being true. Like it was all true, and it was seemingly meaningless, but it all adds up. And I felt really grateful that there was that much attention paid to things that some of them seemed like nothing, and some of them were very important to talk about. But nothing was as good as my time with you. That's true. Even as scared as I was, that's true.
I was scared too.
No.
My final question comes from the audience, and it just says, of all the projects you've worked on, do you see a through line, and what keeps you passionate about keeping going?
I guess I see a through line of things I haven't done, people I'm excited to work for and with, shoot in cities I've never been to, eat interesting food if I can travel. And try to have more of the same. I've been so lucky that it seems gluttonous to ask for more of that. So if that's it, it's been better than I could ever have imagined.
Well, thank you, and
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you all so much.
Sarah Jessica.
Thank you all.